Why would anybody wish to be self-realized?
That's a very good question, actually. And it's a serious question for every aspirant to ask. All our scriptures say that the purpose of human life is to realize that they are divine. Yeah? He says that if you meditate rigorously for 8 years, you will reach the state of bliss. Because the first time when bliss hit me, I'll give you the instant. I was sitting in our town. I was called for jury duty. And the judge was sitting up there explaining to me the potential juror. And while he's talking there, that is the first time the bliss started.
What an unlikely place.
Absolutely. And it was, the intensity was to the degree I was going, what is going on with me? Am I okay? I thought of it first because this is unusual. Usually there is a reason for feeling happy. And when I'm listening to this judge explaining me how to be a juror, right? What is there to feel blissful about it?
Exactly.
Right? But this bliss started in me. And it took me there, and I was there for, you wouldn't believe it, first time, little over 1 hour.
Do you pray to Baba?
I used to pray, but now I don't do prayer as much as, I would say, follow my inner voice.
This is Gyani Baile of Midland, Michigan, and this is one of the most revealing of the Souljourns interviews. Gyani, a follower of Sri Sathya Sai Baba, unlocks part of the mystery of self-realization, of the state of bliss. His first-person accounts, so clearly expressed, mirror those of his departed wife, Shivangini, about whom Sai Baba said that she died a Jivanmukta, a person who had lived in a state of constant realization. Welcome to Souljourns. This interview was recorded on April 26, 2012, in Ponte Vedra, Florida.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Gyani Baile, what a pleasure to have you finally on Souljourns. Many years ago, I had the distinct privilege to interview Shivangini, Gyani Baile, your wife,
Hey.
who died Jivanmukta, who is fully realized in this lifetime and is now realized to the nth degree in another realm. And Jody and I talk to her frequently still, and I've been wanting to do this with you ever since then. Let's just begin with the fact that might surprise a lot of people. Number one, you're one of our closest friends. Number two, you're on a spiritual path that I can't even begin to relate to myself, so that's not your ego speaking, that's my ego speaking. And number three, it's a relatively speaking new spiritual path still. So begin there. How many decades did it take you until you found the comfort level on your spiritual path that you're at now?
That's a good question. As you know, my journey started with Shivangini because she's the one to whom the journey began, and I was just accompanying her initially, just like supporting her, going along with her. But later on, slowly, without knowing, I was also getting more and more into it. And I would say, as far as specific to the question you answered, how long did it take me to feel comfortable? I would say about close to 11 years it took me.
To feel comfortable once you started on this path with your wife.
Correct. I started meditating because she used to meditate and she was having all these marvelous experiences of everything in the book which people write about or talk about. And I was the one who was recording them and then transcribing them because she would have the experience, she would relate to me, and then I would transcribe those experiences into books. And so I knew all that one. So I started meditating with her about I would say 99, 2000. And if you ask me comfortable, I would say in 2000, end of 2011.
Okay, comfortable only at the end of 2000. Now wait a minute, that sounds practically impossible for us to believe because we've known you as a follower of Sri Sathya Sai Baba, a follower in the footprints of Shivangani, your beautifully, spiritually loving wife, who's understood not just the varying levels of meditation, but by your own words, and you never speak from ego, I know that, so I can say this, you've known the meaning of bliss I would say several years ago, at least before 2011. What would you call that, if not comfortable on your spiritual path?
I would try to explain this. Okay. Typically, when we look into what is God, when we talk about it, scriptures talk in terms of it is Sat, Chit and Ananda, which is existence, consciousness. Third one is bliss. And I did not know this one, but as you guys know, I first had my bliss experience start about August of 2008, which is about 8 years into meditation.
So I was right then. It was several years before 2011.
Correct. I got the bliss at that time. And interestingly, when I had the bliss in 2009 December, in my meditation, Swami tells me that bliss is God. He says that. And so I wasn't I believe what Swami said, but is that it or not, I did not know. But then later on, I came across, I was reading Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, he quoted Kaivalya Navanitam. It is a scripture. In that scripture, they gave a marvelous example. What they say is, when you look at a rose flower, it's beautiful when you look at it, and it has got very soft petals, and it is a wonderful smell to it. So there are three attributes to it: the beautiful look, soft petals, and there is wonderful smell. But when we experience it, like I'm looking at it from about, say, 100 feet away from me, I can only say that it has got beauty. When I go near it, when I am about 10 feet from it, I can say, oh, it has got beauty and wonderful smell. But when I go further close to it and I touch it and I say, then I can say, oh, it has got beauty, it has got smell, and it has got very soft petals to it. Same thing is with Satchitananda, with my own experience, what I've noticed it. What I got was bliss first, but the Sat and Chit came later, which is the existence and consciousness.
And that sort of equates, in my estimation, and I think you might concur, that when you have all three, if that's not realization, I don't know what is. Would you call it that?
All three is realization. Realization, I have to qualify that. What I would qualify it is, do we know, if somebody asked me, did you have an experience of what Atma is? Or nobody can have it fully, but whatever the way they define it, which is Sat and Chit and Ananda, I would say, yes, I have had the experiences. But am I a enlightened soul which is self-realized? Because self-realization terminology used it with varying ways in the scriptures and by people. Some people use it like if you have an experience of
the
divine, then you know what self is. That is called, they call it self-realized. But there are some who define it very strictly, saying that if you are self-realized, you are in that state all the time. Now, those are two different. Now, when you ask me the question about if it is self-realized or not, I don't know by what definition I can say it is or it is not, but I can tell you that I have had the experience of the Ananda. Ananda stays with me, bliss stays with me. Since 2008 it started, I have it every day. But do I have it all the time in the day?
And I know you're not boasting.
No. Sundays, like yesterday, and yesterday we went for a walk and all that. I came back and I meditated a little bit. We took a little rest and I meditated and came out. From yesterday, that time, even in the night, 2 times I got up and went to the bathroom and came back. My bliss was running through me all the time. In the morning again, it's not there, right? So you go through those phases.
And why? What removes it and why?
Usually it is your thoughts and emotions which divert you away from your, what I call the equal-mindedness you have, the quietness of the mind, or non-thought stage, if you want to call it. Non-thought is not 100% non-thought. There are thoughts, but very minimal level. At that time when you continue to experience the bliss. And the reason you move away from it is when you get engaged, like when your attention goes to something else, stays with it, and you dive into it.
Now, a lot of
Then it takes you from there.
we've used this word a lot in the few minutes since I turned the camera on, but the fact of the matter is, I remember talking to my good friend Gyani Baile in Puttaparthi and Prashanti Nilayam on several occasions where you would be in meditation for hours on end, and I mean many, many, many hours.
Right.
This was when Baba was coming out in the chair, and way before he had come out, and even when he didn't come out. You'd be there for multiple hours in meditation, and I asked what you were doing, naive me, because I knew you were in bliss at that time, and you told me something that made my jaw drop. You told me you were trying to arrive at that place beyond bliss. Do you remember that?
Right, right.
Which we called the void. You must talk about that a little bit.
Correct, correct. Actually, Swami has written many things about it in literature. Other scriptures have it too. Like human body is encased in 5 sheaths. Like we have the various ones, but first being the food sheath, and then prana sheath, which is your vibration or life force sheath, and then we've got the mind sheath, then we've got the intellect sheath, and the last sheath is, they call it the bliss sheath.
Mm-hmm.
You will feel bliss when you reach that sheath too. Now, in my case, in 2008, when I reached there, I reached that sheath and I was having the bliss, but I did not have all these other experiences or anything at that time. So I was at that bliss sheath. Now, according to Swami in Gyani Baile, clearly writes it, and actually he led me to it, to read it. It says that is the next best thing. He says in that one, it is like you have come across a great treasure which is being guarded by this deadly snake, and you're trying to go after that snake treasure, and you came to it and you killed that snake, right? And you feel the wonderful feeling, oh, I got the treasure now, right?
Yeah.
That is the bliss sheath. But the real thing is when you open up that treasure and see what the treasure is, that is the real thing, is what Swami says. Okay.
Well, you may have the bliss sheath and you may have the real thing, but you also have sun in your eyes. I want you to move your chair just over a little bit.
No problem.
There we go. We don't want the sun to compete with this story one bit. Well, another thing, while we're on this subject, there's actually quite a few things, but you and I chatted for a brief moment before I turned the camera on, and you actually believe that this information can be useful to people who are well along the path and may not even be able to identify precisely where they are now. Incredibly close, if not there, with their own realization. Talk just a little bit about that.
See, this realization, when we go on this path of meditation, because it's an inner journey, there are no signposts in it. Nothing tells you where you are at, and nothing really tells you what your path is.
Exactly.
Because each of us have come with our own baggage, which is very different from individual to individual. And with my own baggage or with somebody else's baggage, their path is going to be different than mine or different than others. So like, for example, Shivangini's path was different than mine. And
but also an incredibly fast path.
correct. That's
And just to fill in parenthetically here, was she like 50 before she even became aware of her own ability to grow so rapidly spiritually?
She was 48,
48.
When she started the journey.
Mm-hmm. And then she passed, at what age was she, 57?
53, so she was 45, 46 when she started.
Okay.
53 she passed away.
53.
52, sorry,
And
52.
she had positive confirmation, in my estimation, that she had already arrived to this exalted level.
Yes.
Through Baba,
Yes.
conferring with us over circumstances that we don't need to
Yes.
talk about here.
Right.
But you already had this incredibly gifted role model who came out of nowhere, so to speak, on a spiritual plane that took her 1,000 miles an hour.
Correct.
To the point where she died, a Jivanmukta, a fully realized being.
Right.
And you're telling us that it took you a long time, even beyond her own passing, for you to learn from that example too.
Yes, because I remember I have had experiences which are similar to hers, but not same. And what ground she covered in about 12 to 14 months It took me about 8 to 10 years to cover that ground.
And for the rest of us, it's taken the rest of our lives.
Right. Because it's interesting is now if you ask me, I know the difference why.
Okay.
Because I was so privy to being her partner, right?
Sure. So why?
Her mind, she used to tell me that right from childhood, she had this mind which used to be very quiet. Like a lot of us constantly think, she used not to think. And she would not share it with others at that time, she used to tell me. That's because if you tell somebody that I don't think, people would consider me dumb.
So she was given this gift.
She came with that. She was born with that.
To be in perfect meditation or close to it without thoughts early on.
Early on, but that's why when she took on to the meditational path, which was about in 1997, about I would say September time frame, she got into meditation. By 98, February or March, Swami called her that you are self-realized.
Really?
Yes.
And for anybody,
But she was not a Jivanmukta at that time. There's a difference. So
yes, but she became one.
she became one. It
And
took her another next 3-4 years to become a Jivanmukta.
And for anybody interested in more about Shivangini, which was the name that Baba gave her,
Yes, her actual name was Gyani Baile, but Swami called her Dali only once in her friend's dream, when he told her friend that he's going to Dali's home. But then from there onwards, from day one, he called her Shivangani till the end.
and parenthetically, those people who may be watching this on Souljourns, either on YouTube or Vimeo, go back a year or two and you'll find Shivangini's interview. Plus I have other never before seen videos of her giving splendid talks in our presence that I want to make sure we upload to Souljourns as well. And we also have her books. And I think some of those books are available through commercial websites.
It's actually the first one, first book is Inner Experiences,
Inner
which tells
Experiences.
her first 16 months journey. And then the second book is The Making of a Yogini, which is the next rest of our journey.
And that's the one you transcribed, I believe.
Right. Both of them I transcribed actually. And the first one is out of print, but there is an electronic copy available.
Electronic copy available?
Electronic, I got a PDF. I put everything into PDF document electronically.
If you can pass that link to me, I'll make it available on
Sure.
Facebook for people
Sure.
to watch too.
Right.
And you also have a Telugu book.
Right. It both Inner Experiences is translated into Telugu and Hindi both.
So did that frighten you, or did it puzzle you when you started to become aware of this woman you're married to, working side by side with at Dow in Midland, Michigan, all of a sudden left the party days behind and left the material attachments behind and moved into this upper strata of spiritual existence that we call this world still?
It was, first and foremost, we were such very good friends. Before, I would say, we were better friends and we became spouses, later. But I knew her extremely well. With that being the case, and I knew her personality, I knew her insight, and when she was going through that one, she would share every bit of it with me. So for me, going along with it was not difficult, but there's another thing could be, which I do not know. From day one, I was comfortable with it. So I don't know what it is.
So you had a comfortable feeling that somewhere along the line, this would all begin to make more sense to you.
I didn't even think that much at that time. I just thought that it's everything, it sounds good. So what is there to worry about? Let it go the way it goes, right?
I'm with some friends here right now, and I just noticed a question when we were talking about self-realization a few minutes ago. The question from one of them is, why would anybody wish to be self-realized?
That's a very good question, actually. And it's a serious question for every aspirant to ask. Okay. It's like it bounces back to our human birth. We are the only beings who are equipped with what we call the intellect, discriminating power, and wisdom. Whereas every other animal species, they have the mind and so on, but not this discriminating and this wisdom, which is out there. And all our scriptures say that the purpose of human life is to realize that they are divine. They themselves are divine, right? Now, self-realization is getting there. Now, somebody might ask the question that why do I want to leave what I see, which I seem to enjoy so much? I need to go there.
To enjoy it more, maybe? I'm guessing bliss trumps feeling good about a boat sitting out on the dock.
Exactly. It's like saying that, like somebody who never ate, what do you call, the best chocolate, Godiva chocolate or whatever you want to call it, and they're only used to the sugar candy of some kind.
Right.
And if somebody says, hey, there is something called Godiva chocolate, but you have to make effort to get that, they may not have desire and
more than a
interest.
Hershey bar,
Right.
but it's well worth it if you like chocolate.
Chocolate, right? So it's like one of those things, and bliss is that. Bliss is that, because there is a lot of misunderstanding about bliss too, because we use the word bliss so commonly, and I used to kind of think about it. It's like what I'm going through. What is this? Because the first time when bliss hit me, I'll give you the instant. I was sitting in our town. I was called for jury duty, and the judge was sitting up there explaining to me the potential juror.
This
The
is
whole
Midland, Michigan.
Midland, Michigan, and I'm sitting in the courthouse. And the judge is over there and explaining to us, me and a couple of other people who are going to be the jury, on what is the process, how to do it, and all that one. And while he's talking there, that is the first time the bliss started.
What an unlikely place.
Absolutely. And it was, the intensity was to the degree I was going, what is going on with me? Am I okay? I thought of it first because this is unusual. Usually there is a reason for feeling happy. It is either mind related, because somebody told you that you just won the lottery ticket for that whatever $500 million lottery ticket, the one going around in Michigan right now. But that gives you mental pleasure at that time, because physically you did not get anything.
Yes.
Otherwise, you had the most wonderful chocolate or the dessert you ever always dreamed about, but eating it the first time, that your sensation, the taste sensation, gives you such a beautiful kick inside, you feel that. Now, these two are, one is mind related, other one is senses related, right? Either one was not functional at that time when I'm listening to this judge explaining me how to be a juror, right? What is there to feel blissful about it?
Exactly.
Right? But this bliss started in me, and it took me there, and I was there for, you wouldn't believe it, first time, little over 1 hour. And it's a continuous bliss, non-stop bliss, and very intense bliss, and it is like sweeter than anything I ever tasted in my life.
Well, it wouldn't have made you frightened, such a beautiful feeling. It may have surprised you, though.
Surprised me quite a bit.
Were you able to readily identify it?
I knew something was going on with me. I understood that it is something to do with my spiritual meditation and spiritual state I was at, but I didn't quite know what it was at that time. Although I heard the word Satchit Ananda many times, but I never related to that at that time.
And why you, Gyani? Of all my friends in the whole world, you're the only one, I think, maybe one or two others only, who get to experience bliss, even when you're going to the bathroom at night. So where does this come from? How have you been singled out, and where are you going with this?
See, interesting thing is, like, I did not know this one, but I found out in 2000, after, like, mine started, Bliss started in 2008. 2009 or 10, when I was reading a brochure which came from Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's mission. In that one, they had quotes from different Swamis, and one of them was a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. His name is Swami Brahmananda.
Okay.
And he writes in there, he says that if you meditate rigorously for 8 years, you will reach the state of bliss, is written there.
And you're not talking about 10 minutes, you're talking about hours a day.
Minutes won't do it, probably. Does one have to do hours every day? Probably not, may not have to.
Okay.
That much.
But you do
it's
because you enjoy it.
Oh yeah. I started out as a discipline because I wanted to. Now the first question, let me come back to why me? How did it start, right?
First of all, move your chair a little bit more this way. The sun's tracking you across. Okay, go ahead.
Little bit further, the way it began is why me, right? If you ask me, I would say it's probably, I would attribute it to, well, of course it is grace of God, number one. That's a must. But then there is also this worldly reason we give it to, and that is, I will call it Shivangani. Because it was in 2004, June 2004, June 4th of 2004, when Swami tells her that, hey, Swami tells her, it's time to proceed. He said that, I'm using his words now, time to proceed. Her, she asked, proceed where? He says, time to come and join me. That's what Swami said.
What a frightening pronouncement. Did she share it with you that way?
Oh yeah. It's
Were you frightened? Well, about its overall implication?
We didn't quite follow and understand at that time because we didn't think when the timing was.
Okay.
See, he never said when exactly. In the next 6 months, he never said that. He said, time to come, time to join me, right? Then he said, she asked him, at that time, she asked him, how about him? Pointing to me.
Boy, does she love you.
Right? That's, she's the reason where I am at today, And she said, then Swami said, he's not ready. And she says, why not? Then he gives us the reason and all that. Then later on, in their conversation, when she asked her to come, proceed now, proceed, it is time to go there. She said, how about him? And Swami says, he's not ready, he's not coming. And she says, I didn't even hesitate even for 30 seconds. She responded to Swami and said that, if he's not going, I'm not coming. And all Swami said at that time was, okay. And I think that Swami took her, whatever she said, and he put me on the fast path. I won't call it fast path, but he put me on the path.
You got there pretty fast.
I don't know. Fast is, how do we define it? It's a relative. So.
Wow, that's back to just finish a couple of points about people who might already be on the fast path and they're clueless that they're as close as they are. They might even be there. Of course, if you're in bliss all the time, I guess that would be the tip-off. But if you're close to it and not quite there yet, what is it that you can say that might help someone to understand that everything they're doing is correct, just continue doing it?
Of course, meditating is definitely the right path because like Swami says, we go out every day and come back home and then we try to wash off the dust and dirt which fell on us by taking a bath. But all the dirt and dust which gets into our mind in our daily routine, either through TV or through people or whatever, how do we clean that up? And meditation is nothing but a mental bath for the mind.
What you just said and how you describe that's wonderful. That makes complete sense. And I don't know that I've heard it explained quite that way before. So you were talking, I think, about awakening and some thoughts took you out of your bliss. You know it when you're not there, and you go about cleansing yourself of whatever those thoughts might be. And meditation is the vehicle for cleansing.
Vehicle for that. And once we get into that, and again there are a lot of disciplines, what works, what doesn't work for an individual, they have to figure it out. Because as I said earlier, that this is an internal path. There is no cookbook recipe for the internal. External we can probably have one, but not internal, because all of us come with our own template, what I call a template of baggage. Where our own unique baggage we come with. So we have to work through that baggage to get to that point.
You're a devout follower of Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Do you pray to Baba?
I used to pray, but now I don't do prayer as much as I would say follow my inner voice, because I do get instructions on what to do, what not to do in meditation. Like, if without that instructions, it's extremely difficult to negotiate the internal route without a guru.
And how do you discern the difference between your internal voice and your desire?
This, I think it is not as easily explainable, but you would know it when it comes to you, because intuitively you know what you hear is not what your mental makeup is.
Mm-hmm.
Like I hear things sometimes in my own native language, my mother tongue, which I hardly think in those terms anymore, because I lived in US for 35, 40 years.
So a thought or an inspiration will come in Telugu to you.
Well, yeah, it will come in Telugu sometime, Hindi sometime, English sometime.
Mm-hmm.
It picks and chooses it once, and sometimes it uses words. Those choice of words are not mine. So this is
You recognize it then.
very clearly. But now I know very clearly when I hear it, because after a while it becomes more clear
Yeah.
as you keep using it, as you keep hearing it. And the most important thing which Swami says about the inner voice is, when you hear it, it's not enough to hear it, but you must follow it. If you don't follow it, you're going to lose it. See, that's the thing about the grace is, when grace comes to you, if you don't utilize it, then the grace will leave.
Yeah. It seems to be a key time in history right now, and I want to ask you a question based on the fact that the day we're recording this interview is a year and 2 days since Baba's Mahasamadhi. I'm just going to guess that his passing from one plane to another plane didn't make much difference in your spiritual life.
No, not in my spiritual life, because I still get the instruction as much as I used to get before, and if not more. And do I miss his physical presence? Yes, I do. When I was there, this time I was there for 4 months, like the last 2 years. Prior to that, I was there for 4 months each time. And when I went there, for the first 4 or 5 days, I could not go past Samadhi without a tear rolling down my cheek. Although I've never been close to Swami, I never spoke to Swami, I never touched Swami.
No special treatment in the physical form? No interviews?
No interviews, no sambhashan, which is speech with each other. Neither did I get any pad namaskar.
I think that'll be surprising to some people hearing your story. They would think that your proximity must have been very close to his physical form, but you're saying it was not.
No, and it was same thing with Shivangini too. She never had it. Both of us did not have it. And I understand fully well, and I'm totally comfortable with it. It doesn't bother me at all. And now, that does not mean if Swami says tomorrow that I'll give you an interview, oh sure, I'll jump for it, Why won't I go for that? But not having it doesn't bother me.
You're a relatively recently retired spiritual aspirant, but you have many healthy years ahead of you. Do you have a game plan? Do you have a goal you're shooting for, or are you just following, living in the present one day at a time?
I really don't have any like a goal to do things, something. Only goal I had, actually, I should say I have a goal, I had a goal, I have a goal even now. And mine is just put everything what I got into going after knowing who am I.
And how important on that path is it to become book knowledgeable, knowledge of the scriptures? How important is it to focus on feeling Baba in your heart? Or how important is it to feel the path of love? Or all three of those?
See, we seem to think they are different, but they really are not. Like path of love, when we talk about it, love and oneness and Atma and Brahman are all one. That's what Swami actually said himself. In Sathya Sai Speaks, he says that. And when I read that, it made a lot of sense to me at that time. Because the actual divine love is no difference than oneness. It is not different. Because at that state, in that state of oneness, how a very good example one can think about how to relate to that is like how our human body functions to support this individual who I call myself I am. Right? Like I say, I am Gyani, if I say. I got a human body which is made up so many parts, different parts, have got different functions, every one of them, without expecting anything, without asking for a return, without expecting any recognition of any kind. All parts work with each other totally functionally well. And in oneness, that's your feeling for everything in the world. And when you have that one, that is nothing but love.
I'm really glad that you took the conversation in this direction. Baba calls it, of course, Maya, the illusion, the drama, the play. Our lines are given to us. We're expected to play them out. And yet that's an extraordinarily difficult concept. Even for those who have been on a spiritual path, in my estimation, for years, the concept of non-duality. Talk a little more, since you've traveled that road so extensively compared to most people I know. You seem to know who you are, and you seem to act from that knowledge of who you really are. Most of us are just grasping at straws with that concept, because the physical world of material presence seems so real that we can't conceive of this being part of what Baba calls Maya.
That's interesting, because it's like the Maya, which we call it, which we see this world. There is we keep using the word illusion. It doesn't exist, or it's like we think it's there, but it's not really there, or it's like a dream, which is not real. Although when you're in the dream,
it's real.
It seems real, right? I mean, you react as if it is totally real, right? We say all those things, but when you have, the only way you would know it is when you have the experience. Now, what is that experience? That experience is when you are not the individual. You need to have that experience where you become one with the cosmic consciousness.
Is that what the definition of bliss might be?
Bliss will come to you sooner than that. Bliss will come when your senses are under control. When your 5 senses get under your control, which also means that your level of thoughts in your mind is reducing significantly. And once when the level of thoughts goes down to a certain level, the bliss starts it's already there. Now it's surfacing, if you want to call it. Till then it was submerged under thoughts. Now once the thoughts go down, it starts surfacing up. Now the intensity and the quality of bliss also varies once you get into it, because I've experienced 3 varieties almost by now. Starting from the heart level right into the head level, and it stays there, and again after that it combines into both, and it goes through that one. So all those will come as your thought processes keep going down and down and down. And that's why when you come to a point where you can start controlling the mind, now one is control senses, second one is controlling the mind. Although some people might say they are same, but there's a little difference, because there is this baggage of stuff which is inside us, which are called impulses, tendencies, which are vasanas, they call them. As long as you have them, your thought process continues to work, even though your senses input may have stopped. Okay, so as long as that keeps it going, you will not sense this bliss, and the bliss will come to you first. But the experience of this oneness will come to you. See, Swami explains it beautifully. He says that a lot of us think meditation is closing your eyes and trying to control your mind and sit over there or whatever, we think of it. Swami says 70% is contemplation, 60-70% is contemplation. Contemplation on who am I, if I'm going into that one. And that combination of contemplation plus the stillness of mind, when they get together, that's when you're going to experience.
Well, we know from your own words that you've experienced extensively bliss at 3 different levels, as you pointed out. We heard you acknowledge in the affirmative when I asked you about being realized, self-realized. The answer was yes. And you talked of the goal of bliss sort of being a prelude to cosmic oneness, being one with the universal oneness. So I can only gather that you've been there, that you are there from time to time.
See, self-realized, when you asked earlier, did you have it? I'll explain in what way did I say yes to it.
Okay.
That experience which one has, I had it actually interesting is last 2011, it was about March time frame. I heard a date in my mind, in my meditation. I was told September 12th. Then I didn't think much about it after that. Maybe something's going to happen on September 12th. So I kept quiet, right? I'm going along in life. And I have this friend. Now, I never met her. I don't know who she is. I only know it because she contacted me about Shivangini's book. She read it. In that one, there's a mention of another book, and she contacted me to find out how can she get that book.
Okay.
So she became a friend of mine. Later, I found out only by telephone, right? And then in the conversation, I found out that she has constant communication with Swami, just like the Shivangani had it, continuous. It's like 24/7. He's on the phone forever. Then I mentioned it to her because I knew who she was spiritually, and she would kind of look at it more objectively. So I mentioned it to her, and then I forgot about it, right? And then come July or August of 2011, then in conversation, she asked me, "Did you ever find out what September 12 was?" I said, "No, I did not find that out. I forgot about it actually." And you know, her comment was,
What?
"I think you're going to have that experience on September 12th. She said,
You were going to have this experience.
yeah,
on
that's what her
September
comment
12th.
was, right? She said that. Then I didn't think much about it. I let it be, right? Then came about September 6th. Then when I'm going through it, in September 6th, I had this experience. I have a dream first. And in that dream, I see a whole scene. And after I see that scene, I am in that scene. And it was interesting. I'll explain that scene. Maybe that will help the audience too. Is I see myself, and I'm a Caucasian, white Caucasian in that. And we are in Italy at that point. And there's a whole bunch of people there, and I'm some younger person, probably in my mid-20s or something, late 20s or something. And there's this wedding which was supposed to occur. And I tell them there's this place in our town where you can do the wedding, and everybody comes over. And everybody's like, dressed in this long white gowns. All the women were, men were in a little bit in white, and this ancient Roman kind of a structure. In that one, this dream is playing out, but the food and the servings were more modern. Like there was a wine table with all the wine glasses, and there's somebody to serve it.
Right.
So I'm standing by it. As I'm standing by, and this wedding is taking place, somebody comes and gets hold of me with their arm around my neck from behind, starts throttling me.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm having, this is the dream, right? And then I don't know what I did in that. I don't think I was doing it, but I flipped the person around and he falls down. Then I tell the person that he's mistaken thinking that I am having an affair with his girlfriend.
Wow.
I really am not, is what I told him. Then he understood. Then he was standing next to me, and both are being a part of the wedding, right? That's the dream. And I woke up, and I wake up about 5 a.m. or so to meditate. And I'm meditating, I'm sitting there. I sat down in meditation, and immediately my meditation is what I call the who am I meditation, it's called. I do the who am I meditation. I go right there, and I'm in bliss. As soon as you hit the who am I, when I reach my eye,
That's your trigger.
the bliss triggers. And I know how to start it. Like even now, as I'm talking to you, bliss is going through me. Okay.
Do you want to share that a little bit?
It's a feeling which goes through right through. It's like I'm having a wonderful chocolate continuously for hours and hours.
Well, let's hear the rest of this dream. I'll ask you more about
There you
that.
go. Right. So it's I hear
You're in the
this.
bliss after the dream now.
Right.
During your meditation.
In my meditation, I'm in bliss, and I'm contemplating at that time, and I'm not that thoughtless. I'm thinking. Okay. In that one, I said, what is this bizarre dream I have? What have I got to do with it? Where does this dream come from? I'm thinking like that in my meditation. Next instant, I see the one who was standing there, I was there. Next instant is something leaped from it, and I'm this huge cosmic consciousness, and I'm still able to see the scene down there. And this huge cosmic consciousness is that what we call the inner I we talk about. And I'm not only realizing that I am one with it at that time, but I also am realizing that all the people who are in that scene of the dream which is playing out there, all of their I is one and the same I.
So you're conscious. This is in meditation. After the dream.
After the dream, I'm contemplating, but for 20 seconds it happened.
Okay. So it almost sounds like it's, Phyllis Crystal calls it the high C, the higher consciousness, the witness, the divine Atma, the pure Atma. It almost sounds like what you just described was for 20 seconds, your pure Atma gave you the gift of awareness of your lower self, dream 1, of the dream your lower self just had, dream 2. I mean, am I incorrectly trying to describe
Right.
it?
I think you're using something which it doesn't occur that way.
Okay.
Okay. When you have this consciousness, when we get into it, the lower consciousness doesn't exist at that.
So you're out of that state of consciousness.
Only then you can get into this.
Okay.
And Swami explained it later on when I was reading. Swami explains it to V.S. Page in 1966. And V.S. Page asked this question. Swami explains that there is sun, there is water, there is a reflection of the sun and the water, right? Water is the mind, sun is your Atma, the reflection is the lower self, okay? Then, V.S. Page asked a very good question, and that's what I would love to ask too, if I had contact with Swami. He said that, all I have to do is lift my head up and look at the sun, so I can see the reflection and the sun, both, right?
This whole interview has been done with the sun reflecting off your face, I want to point out.
That's why proud. Then, Swami told him, that's not possible. Only when that water disappears, then the reflection disappears, only sun is there, then you'll feel the sun.
I see.
So at that, for 20 seconds, the mind was gone. That's why
is it the only time that's ever happened in your life?
That's the first time it ever happened.
The first time.
Yeah, first time it ever happened. And second time, that's not what happened. It doesn't want to give you the same experience, I think. I don't know.
Okay.
Who am I to know, right? But, okay, now let me come back to the self-realized.
Yeah.
If you ask me what self is, this low upper self, you talk about it, have you experienced it? I can emphatically say I've experienced it for 20 seconds.
Well, that'll do you.
Are you doing it all the time, rest of the time? No, I am not. I am in duality like you.
It seems to me if a mere mortal had 2 seconds exposure to that, it would satisfy their curiosity about being on the correct spiritual path for as long as they walk this earth until their last breath.
Absolutely. All the scriptures say that once you have that,
yes,
you won't be the same anymore.
and
Because
you're clearly
shifted.
not the same anymore.
No, I'm shifting. I know that I'm shifting.
And how much of a surprise is this to you because of the old Gyani, who was a very dutiful manager at Dow, I want to say Dow Chemical, but it was Dow...
Corning.
Dow Corning.
Yeah.
Traveling around the world, being a team manager, doing your job exceptionally well, being compensated for it well. All of a sudden you're lifted out of that very important position and you're put into one far more important.
If you ask me, I love it. Okay. Why? Actually, when something, as I said, Shivangini started my journey whether I know it or not. I have firm belief and faith.
We know how she started it. She demanded Baba to give it
Absolutely. I mean, she demanded that, Otherwise, I'm not even going to join, right?
Here's the deal, Baba.
Right. And you know what they say about God, like all these bhaktas who are that close to him.
Yeah.
He gives it to what they want,
Yeah.
So that kick-started me. So my interest already waned by that time. When she passed away, my interest in work started waning pretty rapidly from there onwards.
Okay.
And also with her leaving, even a lot of people ask me, how do you cope with that? My own brother-in-law, which is Shivangani's brother, asked me, do you still believe Baba after what he did to her, I mean, that's what he thinks is he did it to her, right?
I would say probably the answer is more than ever.
Then I used to tell him that, like I told my mother to the same thing when she started asking me this, this is the biggest boon or opportunity which ever came my way.
And I'm guessing most people can't even begin to relate to that, including her siblings and
Absolutely.
mother.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. But I understand because I journeyed with her. Her experience became my experience because I learned and understood so much with her.
Mm-hmm.
And then this opportunity which came to me, and many people may think that it's not an opportunity, I'm being punished, you know. But I'll definitely say I'm not being punished. I'm being taken on a path. But there is, there's a critical juncture too. At that juncture, God still gives me the choice.
Mm-hmm.
Either go Godward path or worldly path. You know. And somehow, whatever the grace of God is, and whatever Shivangani's will is, or how much she exerted on that one, whatever she did, I chose the path of God. But when I chose the path, I chose 100%. I'm not trying to do it like, when I have time or when I don't have a golf to go out there, I'm going to meditate. Not like that. So.
In your spare time, you're not doing it. I don't see how punishment could ever enter the equation, because my guess is you don't feel separate from Baba or Shivangani at all.
No. For about 4 or 5 years, I used to see her literally once a week to once in 10 days at least.
This is after she left the physical form.
After she left the physical body. Not physically. I saw her physically once, maybe twice. I can't remember second time, but first time I distinctly remember. But the rest of the time it's either in my meditation or in my dreams.
Do you find yourself still talking to her?
No, I spoke very little to her even all those times. We used to be together. She used to be with me and we are doing things together. But there was not much like I would converse with her, she would converse back with me. Not like that. Only one time I was going through recent dream was like, she comes in my dream and I'm going through this bliss and I'm sharing with other people, telling them that, I'm going through this bliss, this spirituality is so wonderful, the best thing you can ever have and all that I'm telling. Then I see Shivangini in my dream, I said, you know what, I told myself, I probably never told her. I said, did I ever tell you that I have bliss? She looks at me and says, no, you never told. She told her. Then I explained to her what I'm going through and all that. And she looked so happy for me,
Oh.
So I never really miss her, really.
So give us mere mortals who don't have not even the tiniest percentage of awareness that you have. You already gave us some clues. Still the thoughts, still the mind. And then you also gave us another important clue. Do the inner cleansing. Those thoughts, those conversations we have, those ideas that aren't helpful to us, let's just put it that way. The more real estate they take up in our consciousness, the harder it is for us to get where we really want to go.
Right.
And that meditation is the washing machine that helps to cleanse, bring about that cleansing.
Right. It's I'll explain a little bit, because now what I'm going to explain is not what anything I read anywhere, not any scripture tells me that.
It's what
I've gone through. I go through contemplation and I start writing it down, and when I started piecing it together, the whole thing came together to me. Like this whole world of duality and Maya, it is constructed the way the scripture says with 3 gunas, which is sattva, rajas and tamas, which is inertia, activity and goodness.
Inertia?
Inertia is the tamas, tamoguna, and the rajoguna is activity, and the sattva guna is goodness. Okay, I'm very generic terms. I'm saying there are a lot of components into it, right? Those 3 things are 3 of them, then past, present and future, then space, time and causation. These are the 9 things upon which this whole creation is built on. Right? Now coming back to this thing about meditation when we are going through. When we are going through meditation, we have 3 things to tackle in there. And mine got tackled in that order. I won't say I tackled them because I didn't do it. That inner voice was helping me all along, and it will tell me to do this, to do that, and I'll do it, so I'll go along, right? First and foremost, like space, time and causation. Causation is necessary. When you get the grip on causation, get it under control and get most of it out of you, you'll hit bliss. Okay?
Okay.
But there's still space and time to contend with. They're still there. Okay? Now, what is the causation? I'll explain. That is the impulses, impressions, and tendencies which are buried in our subconscious, which are what I call the thought generators for our mind. The reason when I'm totally isolated from any input coming into me from my five senses, yet my mind continues to jog along, continues to go through thinking about what ifs for future or thinking about past. It is all coming from that baggage of subconscious stuff, which are called vasanas in a general term, Sanskrit term. Vasana means smell. It is like, somebody cooks some food in a home. Even after the food is gone for a day later, you'll still have that smell sticking around.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is. We have done some actions, and the actions are done and gone in some life, but that smell is still sticking around. Until you clean it out, it won't go. Okay. There is the causation. To look at the causation and control, and there are many tools to do that. When you do meditation, a lot of the stuff keeps coming out, which is inside of you, buried in you. And like when you go into meditation, you'll start getting thoughts, which normally if you don't do meditation, you won't even get those. Some could be hideous thoughts.
Yeah.
But they start, that's the way it comes out. That is the cleansing process. And you need to go through all of them and clean them depending on, and it depends on how long it goes, it depends on how big a baggage you got and how much effort you're putting in cleaning and how much you're constantly filling up. It's like you got an input coming in from your senses, your meditation is throwing the output out, and you got accumulated stuff there. One thing is you need to cut off the input or reduce the input, increase the output so that this baggage starts going down. So that's how you work on your causation. That's why they talk about sense control, which means that input is reducing. Meditation and spiritual practice, it means you're throwing it out. Output you're increasing, right? This is simple engineering math, if you want to call it. But then comes the space. When we have not conquered the space, we'll have visions. I see this, I see that, I saw God, I see this and all that one. Because we are still under the grip of space. When you see things, you see it in your inner space. When do you not see the inner space? Only when you start doing who am I meditation. Then you're collapsing that inner space. Suppose you're successful in collapsing that inner space. Actually, when you start collapsing that inner space and reduce, you cannot collapse the inner space unless you got rid of the causation, quite a bit of it. There could be still a little bit left, still you can start collapsing the space itself. When you do that one, the beautiful, wonderful things I was saying about all these gods, I used to have I saw cross many times. I saw Joseph the Carpenter, Mother Mary, and I saw Jesus. I saw Baba. I see all gods and Krishna, everybody, right? Once you start doing Homa meditation, they start disappearing because they occur in your internal space.
Sure. So you're moving beyond another barrier.
Another barrier. You're going through that barrier. After you do that one, you still have not conquered time. You have to conquer time. And the only way to conquer time is stilling the mind.
Stilling the mind.
Otherwise you can't work. The day you do that one, then you'll have that 20 second I had.
Gyani, we're the sun's conspiring against us. Your face is just riddled with reflection of the divine sun. The battery is down to the last minute or two, and the video is running out. So we're going to have to end on this note, but please, to be continued. Let's talk more about this, because this is just a good appetizer, I think, to get us started. I've not had the privilege to talk at this level with somebody who's been able to explain so eloquently the process of self-realization. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ted.
And Saira.
I really enjoyed that. Saira. Inner questioning, because I struggle with the same questions everybody struggles. Right? To the degree, that is what they call not just my own inner self I'm saying, all the people.
And
I made notes.
also from the blanket analogy from Dustin Hoffman,
Yeah,
you wouldn't want to miss the overall picture.
There you go.
don't want to miss the
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, yes.
not miss the overall picture ever.
Wow. I mean, that was just...
Oh, you're like our champion.
Oh my
Who
God.
came out of,
And,
who came out of the
and I
closet?
don't think we've been hearing self-realization, meditation, but